No, that's like the energy, fire and ice, yin and yang, right in front of our face.
Yeah.
So is this what you have for me today?
Yes, I do. We're gonna listen to 2 very different love songs.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Reaction. I'm your host, Black Pegasus, and I'm going to need you to open up that heart-shaped box and let a little love in. Yeah, today we might as well call the show Love Connection because I'm about to react to two love songs that I've never heard before. They're supposed to be two different styles, two different takes on love. I don't know. We're about to find out. But before that, I'd like to introduce my friend and co-host. He's a music expert, a journalist, a producer, the one and only Tim Sommer. Tim, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Robert, and I mean this. It is an honor that you call me your friend. I mean that.
Hey, man. And that's what this is about because, the music has brought us together and it's just cool getting to know each other. Also, I've discovered some of your music and it's, awesome. So
Oh, that's very
thank you for
kind of
being here.
you. Music is a community where we find our identities. That's what I think is one of the most beautiful things music has done for me. It is one of the things throughout my entire life that's helped define my identity. And I get the feeling that you have the same relationship with music. And I think that's a very, very positive thing.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely changed my life and saved it in some ways. And though not having, let's say, maybe the ability to play like instruments and stuff, but being able to go produce stuff with producers and
Yeah.
write, there's just something about that has opened Pandora's box. And
Yeah,
then now that I appreciate the instrumentation, I'm leaning towards learning it as well.
well, your voice and your rhythm is an instrument too. Please do not underrate that. And for all of this serious talk, today we're going to talk about something that may be a little serious, maybe a little silly. Have you ever listened to two songs, maybe your whole life, maybe just for a few years, and you think to yourself, wait a second, maybe those songs have something to do with each other, even if the people who made those songs never even met? And that's what we're going to talk about today. You Love Will Tear Us Apart is a legendary song, probably the
Mm,
single most famous song by one of the most respected post-punk bands of all time, Joy Division, and I'd probably listened to it for, I don't wanna say how many years, before thinking, "Wait a second, there was this song way back in the 1970s, in the mid-1970s, called Love Will Keep Us Together." It was by a very, very different group, a hugely famous pop group called the Captain and Tennille, and I thought to
mm.
myself, what could those songs possibly have to do with each other? Yet, love will tear us apart. Love will keep us together. That's not an accident, is it?
No, that's like the energy, fire and ice, yin and yang, right in front of our face.
Yeah.
So is this what you have for me today?
Yes, I do. We're gonna listen to 2 very different love songs, probably inspired, well, one was almost certainly had in its head that the other one existed. Love Will Tear Us Apart was written in late 1979 and recorded in 1980 by Joy Division, a hugely influential band from Manchester, England. It is a
Mm,
deep, dark love song, or maybe it's not a love song. It's really a song about desperation and feeling that maybe you've taken your relationship as far as it can go. And
okay.
apparently, when they were writing the song, they were aware that 5 years earlier, the Captain and Tennille had had an enormous worldwide hit with a song called Love Will Keep Us Together. Have you ever heard of the Captain and Tennille?
No, I haven't heard of Joy Division or Captain and Tennille. So,
Okay. Well,
this is kinda blind for me.
I'm going to tell you something very interesting about the Captain and Tennille. The Captain and Tennille were an American band from the West Coast in the early and mid and late 1970s. In fact, they continued to perform well into the 21st century, but that's another story. The Captain and Tennille, Robert, were big enough that in 1975 and 76, they had their own prime time TV variety show.
The Captain and Tennille.
That's how big they were.
Huh.
On
Wow.
ABC. I think what had happened, Captain and Tennille were very well-respected studio musicians. Toni Tennille, she's the woman singer. Daryl Dragon, whose nickname was the Captain, was a very respected session keyboardist who toured for many years as a member of the Beach Boys in the early and mid-1970s. In 1975, they came together as the Captain and Tennille and had an enormous worldwide hit with a song that Neil Sedaka wrote in 1973 called Love Will Keep Us Together. Love will keep us together. Now, that hit was so big, so enormous, so ubiquitous, so on AM radio, every time you walked into a store or heard a car go by, there would be Love Will Keep Us Together playing out of the car radio. That hit was so
Mm,
big that the people at ABC Television were thinking, huh, Sonny and Cher have a big hit TV show. Why don't we try The Captain and Tennille? And they did. ABC put The Captain and Tennille on for a year with their own variety show. It wasn't that big a hit, and they took it off the air. But we're not here to
right.
talk about television, are we? We're here to talk about music. And Love Will Keep Us Together is a wonderful example of the kind of beautiful studio created pop that people were making in the mid 1970s before Pro Tools, before Auto-Tune, when people had to sit in a studio, and if they wanted to make a perfectly crafted pop song, they had to use the mixing board and their own voices and their own skills and their own instruments to put it together. So why don't we listen to that?
Y yeah.
Love will keep us together. Think of me, babe, whenever some sweet talking girl comes along, singing a song. Don't mess around, you just gotta be strong. Just stop, 'cause I really love you. Stop, I'll be thinking of you. Look in my heart and let love keep us together. You You belong to me now. Ain't gonna set you free now. When those girls start hanging around, talking me down, here with your heart and you won't hear a sound. Just stop, 'cause I really love you. Stop, I'll be thinking of you. Look in my heart and let love keep us together.
Alright, Michael, give me a
Whatever.
pause real quick. Yo, so this is really
I'm dying to know what you think of this.
first and foremost, it's, like, splendid, it's, like, really happy in the performance, she's just like, "Ah, da, da, da," but she is
Wait,
marking her
I thought you
territory.
said Splenda, which would be a perfect
Oh.
description too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like this the way she's performing it, the
Yeah.
lights, the music, it's just happy, but she is marking her territory. Like, you could have this, like, you know how sometimes you have a fake smile, you're like, "Oh, yeah, like, I love you and you're mine." You know, she said that. She's all nice about it here, but she's like, "Oh, no, don't forget, you're mine. So, you see
Yeah.
these girls? Calm down and just let love keep us together." Yeah,
Huh.
I'm actually loving this because of I just like that angle with the lyrics. The music, I love, it's just I'm a sucker for love songs in general, but that high vibration, we're, like, kicking it, but I think there's something about that the lyrics, like, if you're really paying attention, and this is, also demonstrates the difference between the way maybe, a male might, you know,
Yeah.
correspond to love and a female, but it's just so cool. Immediately, I heard the, "I'm marking my territory, I love you, you love me, it's staying that way."
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't know, there's something fun about it, and I really enjoyed it.
All right, let's get back to it.
Yep, let's keep going.
Ain't gonna set you free now. When those girls start hanging around, talking me down, here with your heart and you won't hear a sound. Just stop, 'cause I really love you. Stop,
Ooh,
I'll be thinking of you. Look in my heart and let love keep us together.
mm,
Whatever. Where the others turn you on, who'll be turning you on?
Uh,
I will be there to share forever. Love will keep us together. I said it before and I'll say it again. While others pretend I need you now and I need you then. Just stop, 'cause I really love you. Stop, I'll be thinking of you. Look in my heart and let love keep us together. Whatever. I will, I will, I will, you better stop, 'cause I really love you. Stop, I'll be thinking of you. Look in my heart and let love keep us together. Whatever. I will, I will, I will, I will.
Did you notice something very interesting about that performance? It was live. They weren't
uh,
singing to a pre-recorded track. Not only that, they had all the bass, any sound you heard on stage was coming from those 2 keyboardists, both of whom were playing multiple keyboards, and the drums. That was a live performance, great use of 1970s synths, and I think that's just phenomenal that they were able to make that sound as a three-piece. Shows that even though this was a heavy-duty commercial pop song that you heard everywhere, these guys were still world-class musicians. Before we move forward, Robert, I want to ask you a question. I referred to before how you used to hear this song a lot on AM radio. Did you
mhm.
ever in your life listen to any music on AM radio since you're significantly younger than me?
So, there was this college radio station, and they had a hip hop segment called Base Mentalism in Boulder when I was in my teenage 20s. And I would go up there and freestyle, and they kind of kept the underground indie hip hop really alive. And so Boulder had this like really big, lush underground indie hip hop scene in that time frame in like the early 2000s. That's about all.
Yeah.
AM radio wasn't really getting listened to
I
in
mean,
general.
AM radio is on the edge, except for some talk radio and some foreign language radio and Spanish radio is really on the edge of dying, but it used to be
Mhm.
the dominant force in
Mm.
driving pop hits in America well into the late 1970s. I'm gonna say until MTV came along, really, you needed to get a song on AM radio in order to
Wow.
make it a hit. Um,
Yeah,
I just
I would have never known that. That's pretty wild.
And I just it reminded me, I have to say, watching that video, just how impressed I am by those guys' musicianships, and you can tell that they were pros and they enjoyed singing that song, which is one hell of a arranged, put together, composed, and performed pop classic.
Yeah, whenever I see a performance like that and it sounds that good, the one thing that I focus on with everything you were saying on is the one take,
Yeah,
right? Being able to do this all in the moment, and then it sounds as good as like I could just spin that up on a
that's right.
record and actually listen to that live performance. And a lot of times you'll get these live performances that have been put on either record or CD that still stand the test of time because they were such good musicians. And that's what I heard there. The other thing is that song just made me wanna get up and dance, and not all love songs make you wanna do
Yeah,
that. I love the humor in this
yeah,
song because they took this difficult subject matter of long-term relationships and the concept of, temptation and growing old,
Yeah.
they made it fun and they brought it together with the energy of love. Like all these things don't really matter because love is what's going to keep us together. But the way that humor of just, thinking about getting old, getting, all these different things. And I think I'm in my midlife, and I just look at it and kind of laugh. And I'm just like, yo, this is wonderful. Cause as I'm interpreting as well, it's like I have younger kids, right? So like not being able to have, as much time with wifey because we're both, doing all this stuff for the kids is like, well, love's gonna keep us together. So there's something that speaks to me there that I enjoy. All right, Tim. So we're gonna call this episode the Love Connection. Now I heard the Love Connection was something going on in the 80s. Can you help me out here?
Yeah, it's very interesting. When you say that instantly, I recall a TV show called Love Connection, hosted by
Ooh.
a guy with a lot of teeth named Chuck Woolery. And
I've heard
and
of Chuck.
and he basically, was sorta like the dating game, kinda like a cheesy 1980s Farrah Fawcett-y, Miami Vice version of the dating game, and
Okay.
frankly, 7:30, I probably wasn't paying too much attention, or maybe I was watching Entertainment Tonight, or maybe I was probably watching Uncle Floyd, to tell you the truth, and, but it was a show that brought people together by asking them questions, and everyone would have known, even if they had never watched the show, they would have known that there was a syndicated, very popular TV show called Love Connection. Now, just because something is a love connection, there are many different uses to the word love, isn't there? It can mean something bright and hopeful and looking forward to the future, like we just heard from the Captain and Tennille, or it could mean something dark that brings us down, that makes us rethink our priorities. And that's sort of what's going on with the next song, which could not be more different. Musically, philosophically, in terms of the time it was made, even though it was only made 5 years later. And that's Joy
Uh-huh.
Division's Love Will Tear Us Apart. Joy
Okay.
Division are one of the pioneers of the form of music that's referred to as post-punk, which means that they sort of used minimalism and mood in replacing the big power chords of punk. And they were a very popular underground band from Manchester, England. And in late 1979, they wrote a very, very dark, but somehow musically and spiritually uplifting, if that's the right word. They wrote a very dark song called Love Will Tear Us Apart,
Uh-huh.
where it has this ringing, resonant musical landscape to it that somehow makes it counterbalances the darkness. The band recorded it in early 1980, and then it was slated for release in early June of 1980, 4 weeks before the song was released. The lead singer and lyric writer of the song, a legendary vocalist named Ian Curtis, killed himself. And it has been speculated that one of the reasons that he killed himself was troubles or confusion he was having over his marriage. And then all of a sudden, 4 weeks after his suicide, the song Love Will Tear Us Apart comes out. It
Right.
made, which was an extraordinarily impactful song, even more impactful. And probably the best thing right now to do is just listen to it. I'm so interested to hear what someone who's never heard this legendary, dark, resounding song, memorable
Yeah.
song. I'm dying to
w-
know what
With
you think of it.
yeah, with that background, I'm very intrigued and curious on where this is gonna go. So yeah, let's let it rip.
Virgin lights fall
Can I get a pause real quick? Uh, with the, background information you gave me, this is really dark. It's interesting because one word stands out to me, and I know it's very simple, but it's "again." And it to me, it implies going through this cycle, and the reason it hits so hard, I just wanted to highlight it, was because him saying that there's a quote we all know, "Art imitates life,
Yeah.
life imitates art." And I feel like this real vivid moment of that actually happening, and it's so surreal, it's actually a little bit scary,
And
you
since
know?
it's a little hard to understand some of the lyrics, I thought that I'd
Mhm.
read you some of the lyrics that you just heard. I'm not gonna read the whole song, obviously, but, um, I'm gonna read this to you now. "Why is the bedroom so cold? You've turned away on your side. Is my timing that flawed? Our respect runs so dry. You cry out in your sleep, all my failings exposed. There's a taste in my mouth as desperation takes hold." I mean, okay, now I'll tell you that this was a number 1 song, and that has to be one of the darkest lyrics ever to appear in the number 1 sorry, in the number 1 song of all time.
So, it's interesting because I didn't pick up all those lyrics listening to it,
No,
some of them
it'd be hard to.
eh however, with what you're saying, dark, yes, but poetic. Like, I really get into this type of stuff, very specifically with this type of poetry and lyricism because it's very easy, for people to, write music where it's like, "You broke my heart, I'm in the dark, I'm walking through the park," or whatever, and it's just like, I just love when they take that time to be a little abstract, a little cryptic,
Right.
and then just po poetry in motion. So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's something eerie to this,
Yes,
but
there
there's
is.
also a truth, and that's what I think was gonna resonate and be relatable with people. This concept of love being such a powerful energy, like it just makes you almost do crazy things, you know? And it's so interesting when you take the time to look at love as maybe a meter or a spectrum of different feelings, emotions,
That's
and
right.
its driving force.
Which is
So,
what we're
yeah,
talking about today, isn't it?
yes, that love connection.
Yep.
Anyways, let's keep this rolling. Let's listen to it.
Cry out in your sleep, all my feelings exposed. Yes, a taste in my mouth, as desperation takes hold. Just it's something so good, just can't function no more. Love will tear us apart again. Love will tear us apart again. Love will tear us apart again. Love will tear us apart again.
Um, you know what I really love about this? The vocals. So his vocals sound kind of far away, which makes it eerie. And as you read those lyrics, I could start hearing the lyrics better as I, close my
Right.
eyes. Now, I don't know if there's a different mix, but I want to highlight his actual vocal performance in the sense that when someone can sit in a pocket, kind of like a Johnny Cash, and make me feel
Mm,
something that's so important. And I'm not saying he sounds like Johnny Cash at all. I'm saying that Johnny Cash ain't hitting these high notes like Luther, or you know what I mean? It's like you can make me feel something being you. I can sing this in my shower and go platinum in the shower. And that's what, like, there's these certain artists that can hang out in these pockets, but because of, either the writing, the emotion, whatever it is. He didn't go on some crazy run to make me feel this. He just stayed in this pocket and told me a truth, and opened a window or a glimpse into his life or what he was going through. I got to see that,
that's
and it
very well
was
put.
special. So, I just wanted to highlight that.
It's extraordinary to think that just 4 weeks after that video was made and roughly a couple of months after the song was recorded, Ian Curtis was dead, and the
Mhm.
words that his wife inscribed on his tombstone were, "Love will tear us apart again."
Uh, uh,
Or rather, I think "Love will tear us apart." Now, what makes this context of this even stranger is, yes, this song became a hit for this dark cult band, but after Ian Curtis died, the band kept on going without
mm.
a vote with one of the other band members singing, and they renamed themselves New Order, who I'm assuming you probably have heard of since they became one of the biggest, really dance, pop, new wave, post-punk bands of the 1980s and 90s and had many, many hits under the name New Order.
I have. Did they have this? Are they the Blue Monday?
Does it feel when you treat me like you do? And you laid your hands upon me and told me who you are.
That's correct, that's right. Same
Okay,
band.
that's how I
Same
was
band.
introduced to them, through reactions. I've never heard of them before till I started
Yeah,
doing reactions, but that left an impact on me. That's why I remembered that. That is incredible. Like, let's tie into a couple things real quick.
sure.
So, Love Will Tear Us Apart, Love Will Tear Us Apart Again. The change of their name, Joy Division, is that's a powerful statement. And I believe in, like, when you're saying things over again, it's like, so it's interesting, the name change, because Joy Division, dividing your joy, like, I don't know, there's
Well,
something about
I'm gonna tell you something very peculiar about those names, which Joy Division came from a very specific place. In the Nazi concentration camps of the Third Reich, some of
Mm,
those camps had areas that acted as brothels, where there were
mm,
women who were available to the staff and other prisoners, and those parts of the camps were called Joy Division, and that's where they
wow,
got the name from.
that's
Interestingly enough, when the band changed their name, they took the name New Order, which again was another synonym for the Third Reich. So there's something a
mm,
little, and all of which, and I don't want to get too obscure here, all of which sort of traces back to the fact that the band have a sound very influenced by the Germanic electronic music of the 1970s, which
mm,
again, it's a little weird. Again, but the main reason we're here is to talk about these two different sides of love songs. People say,
sure.
well, a love song is a love song. One of the things we've learned today is a love song, even when it has very similar titles, can be two completely different things.
Two completely different experiences.
That's right.
I'm dancing, I'm full of light, love, laughter, and over here, I literally feel like, I'm putting to rest my love. So, that's a great way, I think, to end this segment
Yeah.
of the love connection. Tim, thank you for your insights. That last insight on Joy Division is crazy, because I believe there's a lot of power in words, so I really try to utilize things cautiously. Like, instead of saying use, I like to say utilize. But,
Yeah.
it's a work in progress. Anyways, I heard you have a book you're working on. Before we ride off into the sunset, what do you have going on? What's going on with you?
Sometime in 2026, I'm gonna have a book coming out called Dispatches from the Kingdom of Outsiders. It's an
Mm,
anthology of selected work of mine that's come out for the last 45 years, weirdly enough, and 45 sounds like a very long time, I've been writing since I was in my mid-teens, writing professionally since I was in my mid-teens. So sometime in 2026, that book, the full title, I'm going to say the full title, Dispatches from the Kingdom of Outsiders, Writing on Music, Culture, and More, 1979, 2025.
That sounds amazing. We'll keep a lookout for it,
Thank
and
you.
when it
Thank
drops,
you, Pegasus.
we'll make sure to do something and leave some links to it. So, anyways, thank you for always
Thank
joining
you.
me on thank you on Inside the Reaction. You guys, if you enjoy this, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.